Welcome to another episode of TRP. I am Remy, and Matt is in Spain, so Lord Matthew is ruling overseas, and Ruben is, drunk in his apartment. No, Ruben, I think, is doing some family stuff and work-related things. So for the first time on the show, we have Corey. Corey, welcome to TRP.
What's up? How y'all doing?
They are doing great. Collectively, I will answer for them. The tens of 15s of peoples who listen to this do warmly welcome you. Corey is now making this a 100% Yankee-friendly show since we don't have a Cubby or Mets fan. I got another Yankee fan on here.
Yes, sir.
And just kind of going off the bat, we thankfully now have, basically a week's worth of games in the season under our belt. But did want to talk again about extensions because that's been sort of the prevalent thing going on in baseball right now. And just want to kind of kick off talking about the Braves extending Ronald Acuna Jr., an 8-year, $100 million extension. He's the NL Rookie of the Year. He had a slash line of 293, 366, 552, and 487 plate appearances. He also finished last season with 26 home runs and 16 stolen bases. He's potentially one of the faces of the Braves. He's 21 years old, so that effectively locks him up till he's about to enter his 30s. Corey, what are your thoughts about Acuna's extension with the Braves?
I think it'd be a good thing for him, to be honest. Coming in as one of the top prospects in the future, definitely got to show it. When it comes to the extension, and being with the Braves, they have a lot of good prospects as well coming through. So I think they'll have a great chance, to make a run for it in the next couple of years. So it should be interesting to see, how the Braves turn out with this extension here.
Yeah, you're locking up a good centerpiece talent. He's the NL Rookie of the Year. He put up some really eye-popping numbers. Just from some of the other extensions that we've talked about in the past. It just kind of seems like teams are gearing more towards these extensions, trying to lock up the young talent instead of letting them hit free agency. And I think for the players aspect of it, the security, because we've seen, free agency is still dragging on if you're a Keuchel or a Kimbrel right now, so you might want to take good deals when you get it.
There you go.
And then the other big extension from our rival Red Sox, Xander Bogaerts was extended for 6 more years, $120 million, so he's going to have a $20 million a year average. Bogaerts, the Red Sox 26-year-old shortstop, his career numbers, he has a 284 average, 343 on-base percentage, 430 slugging percentage, and an OPS of about 773. The big knock on him, obviously he's there for 2 of the Red Sox World Series. He's a 2016 All-Star. He's a two-time Silver Slugger winner. He's good with a bat. No, I don't think offense has ever really been Bogaerts' Achilles heel. Last year he had a huge year. That was, I think, his biggest offensive showing. But his glove, he's not exactly always been looked upon as a defensive wizard. I can get where you want to, plug in a keystone, for lack of a better phrase, for the Red Sox with a young, talented shortstop. How do you feel about them locking up Xander and us having to see him for at least 6 more years after this year?
I think it brings a good morale to the Red Sox as a whole. He seems to be part of the key aspects of that team morale. So I think having him there a little bit longer kind of gives them that team camaraderie, if you want to say, to kind of keep going and striving to keep going, even though they won't get past us this year.
They're not going past us this year?
No, sir.
Well, that is an interesting point, and as much as I love burying Boston, and I do, the kind of going into the early part of the season, we're still very, very early, so I'm not writing anybody off. I'm not saying, it's over, this, that, or the other. The Red Sox have an interesting statistic that is eye-catching for me, and I did want to do I'm getting ahead of myself, and we will go into that in 1 second, because I did want to stay on extensions for just 1 second, because we've talked about Acuna, we've talked about Bogaerts, and staying with the Red Sox. Interesting story came out a couple weeks ago, and that is Mookie Betts apparently turned down an over $200 million extension. He told Joel Sherman of the New York Post he's going to be a free agent after the 2020 season. He's your 2018 AL MVP. He racked up a 246 average, 640 slugging, 129 runs scored. His WAR was good for 10.9. He signed a 1-year, $20 million contract in January, which set the MLB record for a player in their second year of arbitration eligibility. Betts is a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger, 3-time Gold Glove winner, 2018 batting champion. Arguably, I mean, he's the best right fielder in baseball, and he's arguably, I'm just saying arguably because, I mean, the guy's 26 years old, the second best player behind Mike Trout. Would you say that's fair?
I could agree. With that, especially after the showing he put up last year and the numbers he had as well, for sure.
So, in your mind, with these young players typically signing these extensions, what do you think about Betts? Basically, saying that, hey, I'm gonna not focus on getting an extension. I'm basically just going to hit free agency when I hit free agency, and betting on himself essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of can agree to that, and I guess I see where he's coming. I guess he's saying that his career is starting to progress, and maybe he feels Boston may not be where he wants to live, or maybe end it out. So, after this free agency hits, maybe he wants to move somewhere else and maybe join forces with, say, another, superstar down the road. But I think that might be where he's looking at right now. But, never know. Things may change.
Could you see a situation, and we're obviously speculating. We don't know the mind of Mookie Betts. I've seen some things where he likes Boston, so I'm sure it has more to do with market value or not. But, baseball doesn't really do like the NBA model of grouping the big superstars together. But, I know Judge is the right fielder entrenched in New York, but, Judge could move to left, or Betts is athletic enough to move to left, or maybe even center. It's always well wishing. I know Yankees fans, we get a bad rap of we want everybody.
Right.
But you could see a superstar team like that, and it's real easy to get excited about, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, being in kind of close proximity to Boston, and that close ties with the rivalry there, I could see, a place for Mookie to kind of switch over and, be in the pinstripes for sure.
It's not like it hasn't happened. There's a precedent. We got Johnny Damon. We have currently, even though you wouldn't know it, and we'll get to this in a second, but we have Jacoby Ellsbury. We should have kept the receipt on that. But, going past these extensions and what will, could, or should happen, I do want to broach the start of the season. And if you're a Red Sox fan, you have to be concerned about your starting pitching. Right now, and I got this from MassLive.com, it was accurate as of yesterday, following yesterday's game. The Red Sox starting rotation, Corey, their starting rotation has a 9.08 ERA. If you are the Boston Red Sox and the offense is still clicking, they're still scoring runs.
Right.
But, there's worries. You have Chris Sale is an injury concern. I think Chris Sale is one of the top 5 pitchers in the game right now.
Agreed.
Sale's an injury concern. Price has been kind of up and down for the past few years. We've seen Eovaldi in New York, and he murdered us. I'm not taking anything away from Nate the Great, so to speak, sure. But Eovaldi's been very, very wishy-washy throughout his career. Rick Porcello is not consistent, and Eduardo Rodriguez, you don't really know what you're going to get. They've only played what is it 6 or 7 or 8 games, but are you a little bit concerned if you're the Red Sox? Are you concerned about what you're seeing in that starting rotation?
I guess it's a little early to say, and like you mentioned, they've only played a few games, so there's a lot to kind of see down the road. And like even last year, they started off, I don't think they were one of the hottest teams, but they seemed to kind of pick it around, right midway through the season, and then they came on right around when they needed to. So I think it's a lot more time to tell to see what's going to happen down the road.
It's kind of surprising, though, and just kind of transferring, just to season talk in general so far. The Red Sox have had a bad start. The Yankees have had a bad start. The Cubs have had a bad start. The Astros have had a bad start. These are all teams that, I'm speaking in a little bit of hyperbole, but people anticipated flying out of the gates being dominant. We're not really seeing this from any of these teams. And, I can't chalk it up to this specifically, but, would the Red Sox benefit from like somebody that's still out there, Dallas Keuchel, stabilizing the rotation? Would the Yankees? I mean, granted, the starting rotation hasn't been a huge black mark as of yet. The Red Sox bullpen, they were a question mark when they had Craig Kimbrell.
Right.
And now they have to rely on more of those arms that didn't do such a great job, and then forcing Matt Barnes in the closer role. And then you've had the Cubs. Several of the Cubs' losses is because their bullpen couldn't maintain a lead. I can speak sometimes, I promise. Does that does that kind of make you concerned a little bit? Not in terms of the game per se, but when you have quality players like that are still out, and then you have these teams that are struggling early on, I guess my question to you is it too reactionary to jump for some of these quality players that are still out there, or do you just try and assess maybe for a couple more weeks where you are, and then if you are waiting and these players are still sitting, I've heard some reports and things that like the Brewers and the Mets have been keeping tabs on these guys. When is too late to act? When is too late to write your season, so to speak?
Let me see. So they're about 2 weeks into the season now, give or take. So. I guess it all depends. I would maybe say, if it goes on say a month, 30 days, and then you still see that there's no progression or there's no real change, then I might pursue, those high quality, say quote unquote superstars or, legitimate, contenders that may help the team that way. But if you feel like last year when, you weren't starting off too strong, but then like I said, you were able to pick it around, it just might, like I said, be that kind of same repetitive kind of start to the season where you just may need to just take it slow and then just kind of work your way, work things out. But, I mean, like I said, for those guys to be still out there on that block, it is kind of surprising that no team has picked them up, for sure.
I just wish there was more of an offensive punch out there. So we talked about the Red Sox start of the season, and I cannot let us get away with this. I try to be – I'm biased, but I try to be as unbiased as possible. Our beloved New York Yankees are 3-4 right now, getting beat up by – and I don't say this to be jerks. So, I did say on Facebook the other day I didn't think the Orioles would win more than 60 games this year, which somebody did say, most teams win 60, lose 60, but the Orioles did actually only have 47 wins last year, and they weren't the only team. I think the Royals also had under 60 wins. So even though that is a historical norm, the Orioles have less than they had last year, so they should not be beating us. We have been ravaged by injuries. There are 11 Yankees starters. I don't mean just some of the minor league talent and what have you. There are 11 viable Yankee starters on the injured list this year. 11. Just for fun, we're gonna play a game called Can Corey name the 11 Yankee starters on the IL? Corey, can you do it?
So I looked up. Let me see if I can remember it.
You got to remember, you can't look at the list. You can't get help. Don't look, I'm covering his list. He has a list in front of him. I'm covering it.
All right, so we got Ellsbury, Stanton, CC Sabathia. Let's see here. Betances, he's on the IR. Tulowitzki. Let me see, that's 5.
You got 5.
So we got 6 more. Let's see here.
Can he do it?
Hicks is on the IR. Who else is on there? Montgomery, the starting pitcher.
Yep.
He was first.
Jordan Montgomery.
Yep. Yeah,
Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, man, that was a wild one. And then that's all I can think of right now.
All
3 more. Let me see. Oh, and then shucks, right on the tip of my tongue. Can't get it.
You're missing 2 huge ones.
I was gonna say there's some ones I missed.
So I just to make sure. So I give you credit. You got most of them. There was, I believe we didn't cover 3 more because you missed Severino.
Yeah, that was it.
Didi.
Gregorius. I was trying to think of Didi.
Ben Heller, who's one of our relievers. So I don't fault you for that one.
Okay.
And Miguel Andujar.
That's what it was.
When that Miggy could be a big deal, though. So Miggy is interesting because he has a small labrum tear.
True.
They're going to let him rehab for 2 weeks and see maybe he can play through it. Conversely, if he can't, he's going to have season-ending surgery.
Right. I was actually in the same kind of similar predicament.
You were?
As a youngster. I was actually playing, and I had a partial labrum tear. And same thing, kind of went through some rehab just to see if that'll kind of give me the strength to kind of not have to go through that season-ending surgery. And like I said, luckily, being that I was so young, I was able to kind of develop and strengthen the muscles. But, I was able to, I wasn't 100% back, but, I was able to get through it and kind of play through it. So, if he's able to withstand the pain and kind of play through it, I think he should be pretty strong.
I'm hoping that's true. And then we had one of our big concerns was Troy Tulowitzki, who has not really been playing full seasons the past few years because of various injuries. He got a calf strain, and he didn't have prior calf issues before. It's just another thing that popped up. Mm-hmm. And now the Yankees, we just saw a few minutes ago that granted a minor league deal, added Cliff Pennington, who's a veteran for infield depth. Yeah. The Yankees are getting kind of all that depth that was seen as a positive this season is now being super tested really, really early on.
That is the case, yeah. So I was actually looking, pretty excited to see what the depth of the infield had to offer, especially with the new pickups that we had this season. But being that, like I said, all these injuries are hindering us, it's just kind of hard to tell at this early stage.
The one shining piece I have seen, and I was low-key happy that we got him. I didn't think that he would I didn't think it would be bad, but no one really saw him being in an everyday role, even though we may have liked it. But I'm impressed by DJ LeMahieu, though.
I am.
DJ LeMahieu is contact god, and he consistently puts the bat on the ball, and he's been coming up big, and his defense has been stellar. The guy's 6'4", and he flies around. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely holding down that third base spot for sure. Helping us out a lot.
He didn't. I guarantee you, the guy's a Gold Glove second baseman, and he did not probably anticipate having to be on third base every day.
Oh yeah.
So with that said, the Yankees are in a stretch where we're going to play the Orioles this weekend, and then I think the next couple teams we play are like the Astros and the Red Sox. Are you worried with this depth? Are you worried that we're going to get further behind, and eventually, we can only sustain but so many. We can't sustain any more injuries. I know the cavalry will slowly come back, but
right, yeah. I don't think we're in a bad spot, to be honest with you. Like I said, based off of the first few early games that we've had, I don't think it's going to hinder us that much. I know Tulo's coming back this weekend, or I guess sometime next week, I should say. So we should have him in the next couple series. But I think we take these next couple series slow, try to get a couple wins, and then hopefully by the time most of the cavalry comes back in, we'll be able to kind of pick it up together and kind of move a little bit swiftly.
A little optimistic. I heard Aaron Hicks has started activities.
Okay. Nice.
Baseball activities. I don't know what qualifies as those activities, whether that's just running the bases or swinging a bat or chewing sunflower seeds. But
right. He's out there.
Something there.
He's out there. But yeah, that's a good thing. Definitely will help out, like I said, on the offensive side as well, for sure.
It'll be good to get him back. So we'll have more as these podcasts go in terms of team outlooks during the year, and I'm not just going to monopolize the talk with Yankee speak. As we have Ruben in here or Matt in here, we'll get some NL views of things as well. Topic I wanted to end today on, just because I found it to be, it's disturbing, but it's interesting. So on Wednesday, the Astros had sort of an incident with one of the MLB umpires, Ron Cupla. It kind of played out, from what I've seen in video and read in the different reports, that there was an issue with balls and strikes. The Astros were very, very, very vocal about it. Cupla eventually would toss the hitting coach, Alex Cintron, and then after a following batter, their manager, A.J. Hinch, still had problems with it, and he tossed Hinch. And apparently, caught on video and later confirmed online, Cupla told Hinch, "I can do anything I want," which doesn't look good paired with the top of the fourth. Apparently, the Astros starter Garrett Cole throughout the game, was displeased with Cupla, but wasn't making any scenes or too abrupt verbal go-betweens with him. Apparently at the top of the fourth, when the catcher and the pitcher are throwing the ball back and forth, doing warm-ups a little bit before the start of the inning, he decided to step in front of the catcher, Max Stassi, and stop that. And then after a batter got a hit off Cole, Cole was a little chatty, but, just kept it to himself a little for the most part, walked back to himself. And the umpire, Ron Cupla, with his face mask, I don't want to oversell it. He wasn't being, aggressively violent, but pushed Max Stassi. The optics of that are not great. So, questionable balls and strikes, tossing the hitting coach, tossing the manager, telling the manager he can do anything he wants, getting chirpy with the Astros bench, getting chirpy with Garrett Cole, pushing the catcher. He had a smile on his face, and I'm not quite sure how Max Stassi took it. I didn't see video of his reaction immediately after the push. He didn't, bow up or something, at Cupla, but there's so many issues in terms of MLB umpires. Should they be replaced by robots? Automatic strike zone. How does this look to you? What do you think it's a egregious action by Cupla, or what are your thoughts on what he did and just how that may speak to how MLB umpires are viewed?
Well, I think his actions definitely stretched it far, say to the point of a MLB umpire. My take is after the first encounter of the Astros chirping off from the bench, say maybe from a missed call, I could see maybe one time say, hey, that's enough, knock it off. But for him to antagonize and continue to, and I consider it childish acts, just to kind of keep the quote-unquote entertainment going, as if, he was the main cause of the issue. And then, after, like I said, the second incident where, the Astros coach had to now come back out on the field a second time, and then, Culpa's still chirping as if, I don't need you to tell me what to do, or I'm in charge, you're going to listen to me. Just didn't seem like it was the right, way to approach the situation. And then, like I said, furthermore, to even kind of step in front, I just think, like I said, at that point, it was like he was either out to get the Astros, or there was some type of, connection that may still need to be investigated between him and the Astros. But based off of that, I know his previous encounters that he's had, some issues with David Ortiz, AJ Pierzynski, a few other, ejections that he's kind of encountered that has caused issues throughout the MLB. So...
And it's not like he's a young umpire that shouldn't know better. And I apologize because I don't remember if he's a 20-year or 30-year vet, but he's been around the league. It's not like somebody who doesn't have seniority. And I think the biggest problem right now for baseball is you're wondering what's going on. You're wondering the not validity, but the quality of the umpiring that we're getting. And in years, there's been incidents with him. There's been incidents with Angel Hernandez. There's been incidents with Jerry West. And I think the problem is, if you're an umpire, and I don't mean this badly, I don't. We shouldn't know the umpires' names. If you're doing your job effectively, there is no reason for your name to come up in a report of the game.
Right.
Maybe, hey, the umpire, blah blah blah, did a good job. I shouldn't know your name, and that's not to be detrimental or anything. It's because you weren't a factor. You did your job. When we know your name or hear your name like this, it's because you did something that you shouldn't have done, and there's no accountability for umpires like there's players and managers. There's no press up in the umpire's face because they're not accountable to the media like a player is or a coach is. Do you think that there needs to be an added layer of accountability? Do you think we should be able to question these umpires like, what are you doing?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I feel like they should be treated to the same punishments that players and coaches get treated. Players go out here, they start a fight, they get suspended 5-6 games. Umpire comes out here, he may not approach the situation that the right way, but if we feel that his acts were unjust, I feel like he should deserve the same punishment, or if not even greater. than the players.
They're there to uphold the letter of the MLB law. They have a different umpires union, so it is different, unfortunately. But hopefully we won't see what happens. Hopefully there won't be anything else. But no, that's a good look. Well, not on him. That is not a good look. Your take is a good look. But yeah, hopefully the season's gonna roll on. I will still be. I'm trying to think because April's kind of a crazy month for baseball and for me. But we will be here next week. Hopefully some good Yankee takes to have. Some other things. Matt will be back, so I know he'll be thrilled. And we'll take it from there. We'll have more season review for you. Hopefully Keuchel and Kimbrel are signed, so we can give our 2 cents on that. And we'll see what happens. But we thank you guys for joining us today, for taking a listen to Corey and myself. And as always be a fan.